Okay. All right. So I thought I'd make a tier list. Kind of weird and off. This is one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, just turn on the microphone, start talking. Don't stop. It's like, I got it. So I have listed out and gotten together all of the games I've ever streamed up to today is March 17th. I started streaming in 2022 with Shin Megami Tensei 5, which I think is... Where is it on this? Here it is. Down, way down... Wait, it's not capturing my crap. It's down at the bottom left. There it is. But I started with that. These games are not in any particular order. I thought they were in alphabetical order, but then I realized that a bunch of them are out of order, so it's looking kind of silly, but that's fine. I also, yeah, these pictures kind of look silly, but I decided to list out all of them. There is one missing. It's Hot Wheels Unleashed, but I only got that after I made the tier list, so it's fine. But we have all of the games I've ever streamed. This includes Sunday streams. I thought this list would be a lot smaller. So I thought I'd do like I have a tier list. I have tiers set up here. So I have S+, which S+ is kind of the quintessential 10 out of 10 game. So no matter what genres you are into, these are games that I would just... I should probably go back a step. I need to go back a step. This is very impromptu for me. So I'm gonna be ranking these. I'm gonna be setting these games up on the tiers of the game as overall. The game overall as a game. How good is it on all levels? You know, music, gameplay, and story, and then also the second half of tiering for me is going to be how much would I recommend the game to someone else. And the reason that is because even if there's a game that's fantastic, I might not recommend other people try it. It's just, there are some games that I think are very cool and interesting, but they're not very fun. They're more like an interesting experience, and I couldn't recommend it, but they're fun. But there's one game on here in specific that I'm thinking of that's going to be that's going to be in that category of it's really good but not very good to play. But S+ is the 10 out of 10 quintessential you should play this games, and S is like I think it's a good game, and then is also I recommend people play it. A is I think it's a good game. It's a great game for its genre, and I recommend people try it if they want to get into the genre. B is kind of the if you're a fan of a certain genre, you're gonna like it, but I can only recommend it if you're a fan of like the genre. It's a good game, not great, but good. And C is kind of like it's okay. C's kind of like it could be a very good game for certain people. Like some people will really love the game, but it's not a fantastic game. And it also I would recommend it if you're really like a diehard fan of a certain genre. D is I would not recommend you play it. It's kind of, even if I say it's a good game and it ends up in D, it's like, yeah, this is a good experience and interesting, but it's not. I would do not recommend you go play it. Just kind of, there's one game. You know, I'm gonna get that game out of the way just to set the. Actually, no, we'll go in order. I think that'd be more fun for me anyway, because going in orders can be more funny. So let's see. Starting up here, Actraiser Renaissance, right up here. We played that. Whoops. We played that. Let's see. I think it was the end of last year. I'm trying to make sure I place myself in frame of reference. But Actraiser Renaissance was a 2D platformer. It was a remake of Actraiser from the Super Nintendo, I think. And I'm throwing that up into A, like just flat out. I'm gonna put it here and explain. So, Actraiser Renaissance was really fun, and it was a very solid game. There were some little things that I thought were a little odd, but because I'm going back through memory now. But as a remake, it also was far better than I expected. Because as a remake, it did a bunch of stuff to please old fans, like having it so you could swap in the original music and sound effects. And even you could take away some of the remake's new controls. Because there are things like the jump at certain attacks and the sidestep. The sidestep ability was a new addition to the game, and you could actually turn that off if you didn't like it. So you could actually make it so it was closer to the original, which I thought was very cool. And also the music is fantastic. I thought the game was very good. I recommend it for all people who like platformers. And for people who really like games from the Super Nintendo who want a more modern take on some of that those ideas. It's very good. It's very good. It's on the Switch. I recommend. Let's see. What's this one? Kung Fu Heroes? Yes. I played this as part of the NES library stream. I think it would have been 3 weeks from now, I think. Back 3 weeks. Honestly, this one was kind of fun. I remember it being kind of silly. I'm going to put it as B because as a Nintendo, as an NES game, it was really fun. It was very short as an experience, though. It's kind of one of those arcadey style, you're going to go and hit enemies and run around. I think I got caught by some enemy I couldn't figure out how to kill. As I recall, it was very strange, but it was an interesting NES game. So if you're a fan of retro stuff, Kung Fu Heroes was fun. It was somewhere in the middle of that stream, I believe. It was pretty fun though. 13. Ooh. And I played through the whole game. I'm remembering there was a couple of times when I remember I got raided during it was the boss fight with the mongoose. And I recall also I love the music in this game because the music is very spy thriller. It's a spy thriller. For those who don't know what 13 is, it's a spy thriller first-person shooter. And it was one of those games that has a cult following because people really like it. So it's definitely a fascinating first-person shooter. I played it on the GameCube, and that was a bit of a headache because its controls were very strange. And granted, it's a GameCube first-person shooter, so I was able to get through it. By the end of it, I was pretty good at the game, but it was definitely a learning curve. And the story was interesting. The voice acting was hilarious. I remember learning that Adam West plays the general that you work with, General Carrington. And there was a specific line where I think I realized it was Adam West. It was somewhere in one of the last missions. And I realized it was him because of the way he said, "I've lost contact." And it was just... This game made me laugh. I recommend people play it, though. Because overall, it was a solid game. There were some moments where I got frustrated, but... I don't think it was, like, frustration. It was mostly frustration due to the fact that I didn't understand the game's logic at points. I'm gonna put it as a B. It was not... I think it's gonna go below Kung Fu Heroes, but it was not a horrible game. I would recommend people who like first-person shooters to try it, because I think playing older first-person shooters makes you better at new ones. Because once you're able to fight through jank and you learn how to use weird tactics, because 13 really pushed me to use weird tactics in first-person shooters, I think it was fun. It was solid. It was actually really solid. I think it was overall really good. It was a bit weird, but it's also funny. But just don't go play the remake, because the remake kind of sucks. It would be, if it was the remake, it would have been down here. It would have been down in D. Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown. Oh yeah, I played this. I think I played some of the story in a Sunday stream. I think I did like we're gonna play some of the story just because I want to play Ace Combat. That's going... I think it's gonna go under Actraiser on A. I think it's pretty good though. I could personally say that it's probably up there as a personal favorite. I was introduced to it by a friend, and it is some of the best. If you're into like dogfighting in any sort of capacity, the game is fantastic. It uses real-life jets as the basis, and it does a lot of stuff to maintain realism. And Ace Combat music is goated. It's fantastic. I would recommend it to people who like those kind of games. I think if you're not super into like jets as like a hobby thing, I honestly think it's a lot of fun. I really like it. And also, there are a lot of systems in the game to let you learn, so you can practice and stuff. So it's not like you're definitely not always going to be on the back foot when it comes to learning. I think it's very good. And also graphically it's beautiful, but I think a lot of games are going to be B up because I love a lot of these games. But we're on to one that I don't. Alien Isolation, huh? Oh boy. I played it. I tried to play it for... I believe I tried to start playing it either as a series or on a Sunday, I think. I remember I tried to play it and I got stuck because I also think this might have been my fault because I mistakenly said, oh yeah, I'll follow the game's recommendation to play on hard because it said so, that this is the recommended way to play. And I was like, okay, well, I should follow the game's instruction because I think the game would know better. Honestly, as a game, it's fantastic. It's one of those games that, as in design, it's absolutely stunning. Graphically, beautiful. Story-wise, it feels just like an Alien movie. And the Xenomorph is one of the most terrifying antagonists, just in general. And the AI for it is very, very well made. It's a C game. I can't recommend to anybody but horror fans play it. It is definitely not something I could recommend people play if they're not into horror or are willing to put up with that challenge. It is a good game. I'm not saying it's bad. It's a bad game, but the experience overall for me was very frustrating. For me personally, I remember I got stuck, and I physically couldn't figure out the puzzle. It was the medical wing, and I remember getting stuck because I couldn't figure out how to get around the alien, and also the alien just, even when I was hidden, he would spot me. So it was not fun for me. I can't recommend it. It's like the level of which I would recommend the game cuts it down from being like A or B tier down to C, because I can't recommend the game to people, because it's like, oh yeah, if you're really into it, maybe, but like it'd be bottom of B if it wasn't for the fact that, man, it is a very, it's one of those really good experiences, but it's, man, when you're playing it yourself, it can take a long time to figure out. But that is certainly a personal, I think it's more of a personal thing, but that's how I feel about it, so that's just how it is. Is Amnesia the Dark Descent separate from Machine for Pigs? I know it is, but I don't know how far they are away from each other. And I have no idea where it is on my list of games here. I think this is Dark Descent. Yeah, that's Dark Descent. I think it is. Nope, that's... Let me find... Wait, where's Machine for Pigs, then? Oh, here, Machine for Pigs is down there. Okay, yeah, this is Dark Descent. Okay, Dark Descent. Amnesia. I played this as a mini-series, and I think I played it either as a mini-series or I played it and Machine for Pigs in October. I know I played them both near horror, like horror month. I played it for the spookies. I think I'd put it in B, like above. Can I? Yeah, we're gonna put it. I'm putting it in B tier above Kung Fu Heroes in 13. I think as a horror game, Dark Descent still stands up. It's a older title, but it's... The Dark Descent's one of those games that's really, really good. I can't recommend it for everybody because not everyone's into horror, but I think it's... Actually, you know what? No, I'm moving it. I'm promoting it to bottom of A tier. I think as a horror game, it's one of the best ones. And it's not as inaccessible. That's why I was looking for Machine for Pigs, because that's a whole other conversation. But I think Amnesia is one of the best. I think The Dark Descent specifically is one of the best horror games to ever come out. And it maintains its sense of dread and atmosphere very well. And I don't think I ever got... I think the only time I ever had my immersion, like, slightly hampered was there was a puzzle at the very end that I think I got lost in, which was just... That was just me being kind of a dingus, but... Honestly, it was a very fun game, and it's really good. And I think for horror, I think it's really good, because it starts with a slow burn, which I think is... I think that's important for newer horror fans, because I think they'll get into it better that way. Okay, Skies of Arcadia Legends. That goes right up here. there's no debate on that. It's an S tier game. Skies of Arcadia, I played Legends on the GameCube. I know that some people consider... I think Legends has some... I think, as I recall looking it up, it had some technical issues with music, but that doesn't matter. It is a fantastic game. It's a turn-based RPG that was made for the Dreamcast back in the day, and it was ported / slightly remastered for the GameCube. And it is one of the best RPGs I've played. It is fantastic, and it's also a crime that Sega doesn't do more with this. Sega, make more stuff, please. It's a fantastic game. The music is absolutely... It's thrilling. It's a fun adventure. It feels like a classic JRPG adventure. Like, I know JRPG, I'm trying to move away from the term, but it's a classic adventure from the time, and it's got a very fun story, very interesting characters. Galcian's a fantastic antagonist, Ramirez too. The two of them kind of go together for me, but Galcian is he's the face, really, of antagonists. We have Alfonso as an emo on my stream, and yeah, there's a reason for it. He's fun. But the whole game feels wonderful. And the combat system is very well done. I think because you swap the color of your weapons to do different element damage, and it's very good. It's got a lot of really good stuff going on with that, with being able to handle elements and the such. I will say near the end it gets a little grindy, but that was mostly because I prepared ahead of time. The final boss is fantastic. It is a fantastic test of your ability, so it's really well done. That's S tier game. S tier. Balloon Fight on the NES. Another one of the NES. There's like, I think 10 or so games on here that are from the NES library stream specifically. And they're going to be very rapid fire games because we only played like, I think like 20 minutes each on there. But Balloon Fight's going to go right next to Kung Fu Fighters. I think I'll put it above Kung Fu Fighters though. For people who like retro games, Balloon Fight's fun. It's a classic game. The 2-player mode is fun. I think me and Hecko were playing it, and we were kind of messing around, and it was just very goofy. It's a very fun game if you have the like an NES library or an emulator and you want to play with a friend. It's very good fun. I highly recommend trying it. And playing it for single player, I think there's a lot to be learned from this for use in other platformers, because learning precision in different systems is good for you. So I recommend trying it if you have the ability to. It's very good. Beyblade V-Force Super Tournament Battle. We did this as a Sunday stream, and I remember having a lot of fun with it. Because it's actually, for a game about Beyblades, I was not expecting a whole ton. It is absolutely a very silly game. Especially given that it's Beyblades, but it's actually a lot of fun. And it's surprising how much you can customize your Beyblade. Because you can actually just mess around and change out parts, and you have progression, though it's a little bit limited. You know what? It's gonna go. I think it's also gonna be B. I think I would say, yeah, B tier. It's pretty good. It's limited by the fact that you only have Beyblade stuff. Like, you can look at this is no joke. You can look in like some of the unlockables is a gallery where you look at actual pictures of Beyblades. Like, you don't unlock them, you just get to look at them, and it's very funny to look at. I would recommend it if you're into anime games, like anime tie-in games. It was pretty fun. It's a little silly by today's standards, but it's pretty good. Overall, though, good GameCube game. I played that one for a while, and that's fantastic. Blaster Master. Trying to remember exactly, because it was another NES game. I'm trying to remember the game in totality, because it was an NES game, but you could also I remember the system was that you got in and out of a tank, and you could actually hop in and out, and the tank would stay where you left it, which I thought was interesting for an NES game. It had a lot of interesting mechanics. It was very odd, though. It was a very odd game, because it's very different from what I had ever played on the NES. But I'm gonna put it bottom of A, because it's, as an NES game, it's actually really good. And I mean that as, like, by comparison to its contemporaries. Like, there's some other ones down here, like Dr. Mario and Buku Land, and some of the other ones that are, I would put it up there, because it's actually, it's doing a lot of interesting stuff, and it's a very responsive and fun game, and the music's really cool. So I would, and graphically, I remember thinking the spaceman, you play as the character when you're outside the tank, looks really cool, and the tank is interesting. It's fun. I don't remember a whole ton of it. I remember it being very fun, but it's very odd. It's very odd for an NES game. It's good. It's good though. It's really good. The original. I'm going through these games kind of quick. I do apologize. It's mostly just because I'm still looking at all these like, oh my god. The original Balloons. We did this recently. I remember we played it. It was a redeem for somebody said, oh, you have the Ninja QE archive. Let's play Balloon. So I did that. I actually finished the game, which is an odd thing to say about a web browser game, because it was a game originally on the, like, as a browser game. You played with Flash and stuff. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of. No, I'm gonna put it. You know what's funny is that overall it was just a fun experience. I'm gonna put it at C for now. I think it's mostly just no. I'm gonna stick to my guns. It's bottom of B. No, it'll be C. I think C, because it's kind of like Alien Isolation, where if you're going to experience it for like history's sake, or you're playing it, It was fun. Like, overall, really good game. I don't know why you'd play it now. It's more like you'd play it for 5 minutes and then forget you're playing it. I did a whole stream of it just because I thought it'd be fun to study it. And also because someone redeemed for it, so I played it. Honestly, as a game, it aged okay. The only thing that's weird about it is there's no music, and it's kind of bizarre because some of the puzzles were very precise. So you had to know the specific solution, which could be very difficult to parse if you didn't have some means of figuring it out. It is weird as a game now, but it's an important piece of gaming history to me because it's one of those games that kind of proved what you could do with browser games, because I think browser games were the precursor to what mobile games became, and it was proof that you didn't necessarily need to have a whole lot to make something fun. Because Bloons is fun. It's a fun game, and I think it was genuinely fun. It was just, I don't really recommend people go out to play it. It's kind of a it's a relic of its time, and it's more of an artifact of what was, but not bad. Mind you, I'm gonna say this also. I'm not gonna say, I don't think there are any games on here I played that I would ever say are like bad. It's more just my experience with them, and here's where they kind of sit. And it's more of a note of here's what I think of them when I played them and what I think of them currently. Which brings us to, let's see. We still have one. Dragon Ball Z Budokai. That's S tier. Back in the day, this is my favorite fighting game, like just in general. I'm gonna put it below Arcadia though, because I think for me it's, you know what? No, A tier. I love Budokai. I really don't want my bias for this game could very easily sway me, but it's A tier only because I think there are some little. Yeah, there are some little things where I'm like, it's aged a little bit. I will also say I played the original on the GameCube, so / PS2, so it's the original version, not the remaster. The remaster, I every time I see people playing it, I'm like, man, it is not as good. The music from the original is what I came there for. The music is fantastic. The gameplay is really solid. Some boss fights are pain, but I only know them because I've played the game for years on and off, so kind of. I also know that I have a major bias for the game. But I do think that if you're into older school fighting games, kind of like Tekken 2 and the older arcade style games, you would love this game. And it's a really fun game. A little bit hit by age, but also I think it also summarizes the story in weird places for Dragon Ball Z, but it was a lot of fun. And getting to stream it again just made me realize how much I like the games. So I personally love it. I would put it as S tier, but I think if I really critically analyze it, it's an A tier game. I would not say it's a like absolutely specifically like 10 out of 10 game. I think it's a 9 out of 10. And that's saying that as a person who played it as a kid and absolutely still adores it. It is still really good. I remember having a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun redoing the Frieza, like the Namek Saga is probably my favorite part of the game. And also doing some of the World Tournament stuff, but it was fun. City Connections. This is another NES library one. I remember having a lot of trouble figuring this game out. I got told to play it a second time on stream because they were like, no, you have to figure it out. And I was like, okay. And it was because I couldn't figure out how to go up in areas because I didn't know how to jump. And that was something that I think the trouble with these games, with the NES library, is that there's no instruction manual. So if you get stuck with a game and you don't know how to play it, you don't have the benefit of the written instruction manual like when you bought the game originally, it'd come with an instruction manual. So there's no tutorials in these NES games, which I honestly think the NES library needs to do. They don't have a system to have that, so you can actually learn how the game is supposed to work. Even if it was just like some scans of some instruction manuals, that would be really helpful, but they don't, and it's very hard to learn the games secondhand, which can be very difficult. It's also why I remember I bought a few NES games at a yard sale. I had the same experience where trying them out, I had no idea what I was doing. Because you don't have the instruction manual and you don't have you don't have the presence of something able to tell you how to play. And tutorials are an interesting piece now of modern gaming because we moved away from instruction manuals that are written, and we moved into tutorials because it allows us to it allows us to save paper, but it also makes it so that the game itself is a more fluid experience because you load up the game and learn it as you're going rather than reading an instruction manual. But I have found there's a couple other games on this list that I'll mention this because Eternal Darkness is one that it's the counter argument. I find the instruction manual to be very fun because it's kind of like being an adventure with a map, and it's important. I think it's actually kind of fun to do that with. But I'm gonna put it next to Kung Fu Heroes. I'll put it slightly above. I think it's a B tier game. If you know what you're doing, it's fun, and it's got cool music, but overall, it's okay. Buku Land, I am putting you at a C. You are... Actually, no. You're bottom of B. You're bottom of B. You're okay. No, top of C. Honestly, Cuckoo Land is weird, because I don't understand it. It was another NES library game, and I like it. I think it's just top of C, because it's... You know what? No. You can go below Alien Isolation. I don't really get it. Because it's kind of one of those arcade-style games, and it's... I do not have a personal love for it. I think it's also because its style of play is very odd. Because you actually have no personal control over your character. I don't remember the dude's name. I know he's a trophy in Smash Bros. Melee, but I forget his name. But the dude you control... You have no personal control over him. You just control when he grabs onto a thing on his left or right. And the problem is it's his left and his right, not your left and your right, which... Man, that is an adjustment and a half. It is awkward. It is a fine game. It is fine. I just personally don't. I don't have a love for it. Conquest of the Crystal Palace is... Oh, it's A tier. I just don't know where it goes on A. I think it goes above Amnesia. I think it'd be like right in this spot comfortably. I think. Yeah, I think so. Conquest of the Crystal Palace was a game redeemed by longtime viewer, Nahamaha, and was a... It was an NES game that we actually busted out the we have a new overlay for that. It's a big TV. That game was very fun. It's actually, for an NES game, it was a lot of fun. I messed up and had to replay the whole game because I accidentally let a game over go through and I didn't have a save state because you know, I was playing on my totally legit NES. The game itself is actually a lot of fun. It's one of those platformers that I actually recommend. It's one of those hidden gem platformers. I think it's fantastic. It is also got a weird sense of humor. Just because you have these bits with the news with there's a store owner named Kimmy, and every time you go to her, if you're flipping through the thing, it'll give you these news flashes, which also fill in the story of the game, but also are just they're these very funny asides that I personally think are they're fun. And the final boss is one of the most, I'm calling it one of the most WTF moments of gaming, because it's bizarre. It's very bizarre. Crystallis. I'm putting you at the top of B, because I have no idea what you are, truly. Because Crystallis was another NES library one, and somebody said I should do a longer series to play it. It is very cool and very interesting. I have no idea what it's about, though. It's a very bizarre game. It's an RPG-style game, and I do not recall much of it. I just remember it being had some interesting world building where magic came after a devastating war. Like, we basically developed magic after a war, which feels like radiation magic, but it was interesting. It had some cool music and some interesting side effects and like sound effects and interesting effects and stuff, but it was solidly okay. I think it was solid. Actually, I'd put it below. I'm going to put it below Beyblade because Beyblade was... I think Beyblade gets points for memes. I think it just gets extra points for memes. Kind of like how 13 is a B because of memes. Cuphead. Oh yeah, that's right. I played the DLC for Cuphead on stream. Oh man, this is going to be... This is another one of those games where my biases kind of give me... Because I personally absolutely adore the game. And in my personal time, I was actually working on getting the S rank on a bunch of levels before in college. But I stopped doing so because I got busy. And then I lost a lot of my touch with the game, and then I played the DLC, and I've played through the game a few times. I'm going to put it at bottom of A. Because I think it's bottom of A because it's one of those games where if you play it by aesthetic alone, both in music and in design, I think a lot of players got suckered into it and didn't realize they were coming into an arcade, like an old Contra style game. And Contra is hard as heck. I've played Contra, it's hard. And Cuphead is a difficult game. It is fun though. It is very fun. But I could not with consciousness say that I'd recommend it to everybody. I think if you're a more experienced gamer in general, I would go check it out. Or at the very least, just be ready to suffer and learn quick, because you're gonna have pain. So just have fun with that. But the music is the music is stellar, and the animations are always just beautiful. So even if you have to watch someone else play it, just get involved with this game. It's fantastic. Dead Space. The original Dead Space. So this is the original release of Dead Space. I think it goes right now. I think it's in the same. It's at the same point as Dark Descent. The remake. If I was playing the remake, it'd be top of A. But as a horror game, especially as the survival horror genre, I can't recommend it enough. It's one of the best of its class. So it is one of the best horror games ever, I think. The only thing that I think it loses points for is what was it? Her name, Kendra. I think Kendra is just the worst. But that's it. Honestly, game was fun. I played through it all. It was it still holds up. And a lot of its systems and the way it handles effects, because a lot of sound effects lack oomph in modern games. I think it handles it with, it has power behind a lot of its weapons. But it also makes you feel terrified because, man, the necromorphs are just the worst. Donut County. Oh, I remember this one. This was the double feature. This was the one with Gorogoa, which is over here on the far right. So far left is Donut County. That game was, those two took up 2 hours of one stream. It was 2 and 2. And Donut County was a short game, mostly because it's a puzzle game where your goal is to suck in everything in an area into a hole. And the story it tells of like these two people, of the raccoon, the raccoon talks. I'm still not, the world building is odd, but if you take the question of why do the raccoons talk, it's a fantastical adventure. There's a lot of talking animals and it's very silly. I'm gonna put it because it was a very short experience. And that's kind of the only thing docking it. I'm putting it up here with Blaster Master, where if you're into puzzle games and you like the silly fun games, I think it's very good. It's a very short play if you know what you're doing, but I think it has a lot of things to do, and it's fun. It's a fun little romp through a interesting world, and the gameplay it's fun, it's silly, and it has a good sense of humor. I thought it was very funny. I think I laughed a lot that stream. Dr. Mario. I think Dr. Mario is in Crystallis' case where... Actually, it's kind of more like Balloon Fight. I think it goes with Balloon Fight, where if you're looking for something to do for like an hour or like for a little while to play, you can't go wrong with Dr. Mario. It's a very solid game. Good music, fun multiplayer, and it's something to test your skills. It's a puzzle game. It's kind of like my brain went to Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but it's a Puyo Puyo game, and it's about matching 4 colors. It's fun. It's simple. It's good fun. I recommend. Let's see. Earth Defense Force 4.1. Ooh, Earth Defense Force. I played a lot of it at the time. I was playing a lot of it, and that's why I streamed it at the time. I'm gonna put it next to Beyblade in B tier, because Earth Defense Force is really fun, but if you're not into the arcade shooter, it doesn't offer a lot besides play a ton of missions. The grind is unbelievable, but if you're there for a meme-worthy time, it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's very silly. And also, man, the weapons get stupid. Especially because I played the Air Raider class, which basically means I call in 50 missiles and sit in a mech suit the whole time. So I think I'm biased in that it's silly. Is you just walk around with a surface-to-surface missile as your primary weapon. It's stupid. It's great. L-Sword. Oh, L-Sword's an interesting case, because that was one that was redeemed for. I think it was Nahamaha again. That one is a interesting case, because it's a MMO, like, 2D brawler game, where you can, and I know that there's MMO aspects. I don't think I got far enough in to be able to do more with it, but it had a story that you play through, and a lot of different modes, but it was actually it kind of felt like playing the Subspace Emissary from Smash Brawl, from Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but as its own sort of game with RPG elements, which was interesting. I think I'm actually going to put that top of B. I think it's going to go above Beyblade, because I had a lot of fun with it. And I remember it being very solid. If you're a fan of brawlers or MMOs, it's really good. I don't think it goes into A or S, because there were some things about it that I thought were kind of odd. Also, it's kind of limited, because you don't have... Like, obviously, there's no offline modes, and there's a lot of stuff about it that required online play and further investment. So if you're willing to invest a lot of time into it, I think you could have a lot of fun with L-Sword, but it is kind of a weird one. It sits in that weird space like Crystallis, where I don't think I got in far enough to know more. And it could go up to A if I go back and play more. Eternal Darkness, S tier. That seems weird, but let me explain. Eternal Darkness is one of the few horror games that genuinely made me, like... First off, it also was one of the few that genuinely made me, like... It wasn't just about horror, it made me genuinely, like, confused and slightly terrified, but also because it was willing to do things that make no sense. It's a horror game that targets the player. It is not just targeting the characters, it's targeting the player, which is far funnier as a horror game. And also, as a survival horror, it was doing a lot of stuff really, really well. I remember I made a mistake because I forgot to save at some point and lost, like... Oh, man, I lost, like, a ton of progress. I remember that... Oh, no, it wasn't because I lost progress. It was because I soft-locked, because I made some dumb mistake. Because you have to get some specific items to get through the game, which does... That's why I said I'm going to put it at the bottom of S, but as a game, it does so many weird things. So, and it's like, as a horror game, it's one of the best ones. Like, even more than Dark Descent. I know that seems weird, but Eternal Darkness is also got... It's also got a very, like, very Lovecraftian style story. And it's actually very well written. It's a very interesting game. The main villain, I'm trying to remember his name. I feel bad for forgetting his name because he's really cool. He's your final boss. He's really cool. It's something with a... Man, I forget. My bad. But I just remember he's a Lich Roman Legionnaire, and he's working for basically a great old one. And the way the game plays out is so cool. And the magic system alone is enough for me to give it like an A, because the magic was really fascinating. And you could actually cheat your way by getting higher level spells if you had the runes for it early. And it had a lot of cool stuff going on. And also the story was... the world building was really cool, and it's funny because it's one of the few Lovecraftian inspired games to actually take place in like the northeast of America, which is where a lot of these stories take place. So very interesting, very good. It's one of my favorites. Excite Bike, going right next to Dr. Mario, same reasoning. It is the wait, whoops. Excite Bike, same reason as Dr. Mario. I think it's a little bit better than Dr. Mario and Balloon Fight, but another fun NES one. Good music, fun gameplay. Good for a few hours if you need to kill time. Nowadays, a lot of NES games now kind of come across as, oh, it's a fun time to spend like an hour or something. Like, you don't... I don't think it would be a game that I would say is at not the pinnacle of gaming as it used to be, but they're fun. They're fun things to do when you're just kind of messing around. It's good. I have fun with it. I remember there's another NES library one. F-Zero GX. You are going right up there with... I think you're going to go slightly below Actraiser, but that's an A-tier game. That's an A-tier game. F-Zero GX, racing game. Captain Falcon's probably best outing. I think it's personally one of the best F-Zero games. It's fantastic. I think these top 3 games in A tier right now, all 3 of them have banger soundtracks that just buying the game for the soundtrack alone is not that is something I would say is that's not underselling it. It's really good, and it's fantastic. Gameplay's snappy, but it's fast. It has a learning curve, and the story mode is kind of arcadey, but it's really fun. The last mission is BS. I still haven't done it yet. I know I said at some point I would try to do a streaming... I might do a subathon at some point, maybe, to do that, but I don't want to because it's agony. Because that final boss race is one of the hardest in the game, in gaming in general. Just like in racing game history, it is difficult. But man, that's a good one. Oh, getting over with Bennett Foddy. Okay, so here's the thing. I have a weird bias for this game. I really like getting over it. I actually find it to be very zen, which is very bizarre as a thing for a human being to say. But personally, I really like it, but it requires a lot of precision and patience. As an experience, I don't recommend it for most people, given that I see some people break whole setups just because of the game. But for me, it's very zen. I'm putting it as a bottom of B. Bottom of B. It's right there. It's kind of like that line between it and Alien Isolation. It is not a game I recommend people to play unless you're... I think I recommend it for people who either have a infinite spring of patience, or for people who... Actually, you know what? No, it's going to be top of C. I can't recommend it to people who don't have, like the patience of a saint or the brute force of a bull. There is no way that you can play this game unless because I think the trouble is its reputation precedes it, and it is a very hard game for me to recommend just because if you hear the name, most people already know it, and it's a very difficult game to get into. I think it's fine being next to Alien Isolation. Another game that I think is really good, because Alien Isolation is fantastic. It's just I can't recommend it to people without being like, hey, here's some caveats about me recommending this game. And here's why. That's kind of where it is. Oh, Ghosts and Goblins. I think you're next to Kung Fu Heroes. I played it a little bit, and I got to, I think where the first Firebrand shows up, I think. And it's a solid game. Ghosts and Goblins, I don't have any personal love for. I know Arthur from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I have no personal love for him and for his adventure. It is very fun, though. For people who like the genre of platformers, I think it's very fun. It's not my favorite one, though. It's definitely kind of okay. Actually, you know, it's going to go below 13. It's okay. I'm not... I recommend it for the fans of the retro and the 2D platformers, but for me, it's just... it's okay. It's not my favorite. GoldenEye 007. Ooh, this is a weird one. Because, you know what? It's going above... I think it's going to go above 13. Because to me, the two games sit in the same parts of my brain, where if you're playing GoldenEye at this point, especially because now it's available on a lot more systems, and is available on modern hardware, I think it's a lot of fun. It's a very fun first-person shooter, but it's a relic of its time, and some of the things of it aged a little strangely. Much like 13, where parts of it aged very oddly. Namely, its control schemes and its weapon systems, because its aiming is very odd. But as a game, it was a lot of fun, and exploring it as a relic of the past, as it is, it's very cool as a game designer to look into. And I recommend it for people who want to learn more about the history of first-person shooting, and for people who really like the N64 era of gaming. Overall, not too bad. It was fun, though. Honestly, it still is a very good game. It's just my personal... I have some little personal things with it, but also I had a lot of fun. It was very fun as a game. I just know that it does not have the it does not have the love that I don't hold love for it in the same way that I hold stuff for Budokai. I think it's just because I didn't grow up with GoldenEye. I got pulled away from it pretty early. Gorogoa, you are... Should be S tier. It was in the same stream as Donut County, and I remember very much loving Gorogoa. Because it's either going to be... I think it's either going to be top of A or bottom of S. Actually, let me think. Because I know some people played it because I did. I think it's going to go... It's actually going to go here. It's a fantastic puzzle game. However, there's a caveat to this. It has some weird stuff that if you don't know what you're looking at, you could get stuck. And I know some people got stuck trying to play it. Because there's a certain puzzle, I think, where they got stuck and it was very difficult for them to move forward. But that is more the puzzles are very difficult. But for those who love puzzle games, I cannot recommend it enough. But as an experience overall, it is fantastic. And I recommend people take it in firsthand, because it's a fantastic game. And I think it's really good. I think it's one of those games that it's also the art style is breathtaking. Very beautiful game. And if you have the time to play it, have headphones on, clear out your afternoon, play it, enjoy it. Just savor it. It's a very good one. Gradius. Gradius is, man, it gets biased for me. There's a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards with Gradius stuff on it. It's another NES library one. I think it's gonna go right next to Elsword, I think. Because I think it's a lot of fun. Actually, no, it'll go with Earth Defense Force. If you're into the, I think it's like Earth Defense Force, where if you're into the genre, where it's the auto-scrolling bullet hell games, much like your, what's the name of the series? My brain, Toho. It's kind of the granddad of those, and I think it's really good. It does a lot of stuff that's a lot of fun. It's also one of the few games with the working Konami code, so you can actually just have the upgrades and have fun. So it's fun. It's a good game, and it's available on the NES library, so it's easy to get to now. Good game. Hacknet. Oh, Hacknet's bottom of A. Actually no, top of B. I think it's only because of the fact that Hacknet is a very weird game if you don't know what you're doing. If you come into Hacknet without any idea as to what you're getting yourself into, man, is it a weird game to try and learn off the cuff. This was one that was recommended to me by another longtime viewer, Drifter, who redeemed the game and then had a hilarious time watching me try to figure out how to hack. It's actually a game about hacking computers, and it's, as I've learned, it's authentic to those kind of experiences and some of those ideas, and it's a very interesting story, and it's a solid 10 out of 10 story, by the way. It's fantastically written, and it's a very fun game. But if you're not into puzzle games, and you also don't have the mind to open yourself to learning a very new set of skills, it can be a very solid wall to get over. So I would put it at top of B, because it's a fantastic game, but you really need to come in prepared. Not look up spoilers or look up what to do, but just be prepared that this game is not going to be like other video games. It is a very strange game, but it's a lot of fun, especially for those who are willing to do the digging to get the story and to get the most out of it. I think it's very good on that side. Hades, you are up here, my friend. You need to be up here, my friend. I'm gonna put you between... Yeah, I'm gonna put you... Skies of Arcadia kind of edges you out a little bit, I think. But Hades is a 10 out of 10 game. All three, storytelling, music, and gameplay feed each other and work in a symbiotic way that is just absolutely stellar. It's beautiful. It's a fantastic game. And it's a little difficult, but once you start getting into the groove of learning, it's wonderful. Also, the fact that every single run you do, you don't come away empty-handed. It's a roguelike. You don't come away empty-handed. You always get something, because there's always some story to push forward, or something new happens in the House of Hades. It's very well done. It's a fantastic game. Supergiant, and Hades 2 is coming out, so... Oh, I'm going to be playing that when that comes. Ice Climbers. That's going to be good. Ice Climbers is... I think it goes with Ghosts and Goblins. I have no particular love for it, but I do enjoy it. It's a fun game. It's a fun little game to play for an afternoon, especially if you have a friend. It's very good. I like it. And the music is very... I think the music has brownie points for me, because the remix in Smash Bros. Melee is one of my favorites, so it's fun. Eco, you're up. You need to be up here with... I think Eco gets to go right up next to Hades. That's a 10 out of 10 game. I played it on the PS3 along with Shadow of the Colossus, and Eco is... I think Eco's the superior of the two. Eco is a fantastic video game. That is beautiful. It's haunting, it's interesting, it's beautiful. The music and gameplay are... the music, gameplay, sounds... Everything there is such a fantastic experience. Every piece of it was very fun. There were some bits where I got stuck, and I was still like, no, I need to figure it out, because I need to see the story to the end. Yorda's also one of the best companions. I like her a lot. She's very cool. And the fact that Eco doesn't know when to quit, the boy, he's amazing. It's very cool. It's a fun game. I cannot recommend it enough for those who can get. And also the speedrunning community. Shout out to them. They're very cool. They have a lot of cool stuff going on still. It's a game that they're still learning new tech. It's very cool. Inkwell, you're Etsy. I like this game. It's very cool. Actually, no, you're bottom of C. Very interesting game. I personally can't recommend it. You know what? It's mid. It's okay. It is okay. I had fun with it, but man, is it just a weird game to learn. The learning curve is very high, and it does not explain it explains some things, but it's like 3D chess. I don't know what I'm doing. It did a very weird job of trying to explain itself, and I can't. You know what? No, you get to be top of. No, you're bottom of C. I won't say you're bad. Like you're not like oh, I wouldn't even talk about it. It's like no, it's one of those games where if you're into strategy games, I can recommend it, but it's got some weird idiosyncrasies that are I can't throw it to anybody but the strategy buffs. Like if you're really into something like Warhammer or games of that like level of tactical complexity, I think you could get into it, which is weird because it's not a very like visually complex game. It's just that it has no mercy, and it does not teach you much, so it is very hard to get into. Inside, you get to be up here with, I think it's up there with like right here. A little bit of an odd one, but it's an odd duck, but it's a fantastic game. Very unnerving, but a very fascinating story because there's no dialogue. It's just a story. The story is based in what you take from it. But as a video gaming experience, I can't recommend it enough. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. Very strange, very haunting. It has tones of Akira. Very, very interesting story. And also visually just stunning. Music's really interesting. I really like it. Insane's cool. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R. Fighting game. Very interesting fighting game. I have a bias for it due to being a JoJo fan. Mostly because I get a lot of my JoJo stuff is I own part 1 of the manga. I have the whole thing, and I really like the world building Araki does. I also read the book Araki wrote on writing manga because it actually helped a lot of my current writing. Very, very well done stuff. As a fighting game, it's kind of like Street Fighter 4, which is a weird comparison, but it's a lot of the same stuff. It's got a high learning curve. I'm putting it under. I'm gonna put it like here. I think. Yeah, I'm gonna put it right with GoldenEye and 13. As much as I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I really love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I would recommend this game to fighting game fans and to people who really like anime games. I don't know how much I could recommend it to anybody else, though. It's kind of a weird one. Also, just because it's a bit of a weird game to get into. And for anyone who's not a staunch fighting game fan, it might be a hard one to get into. And there's no story mode. It's mostly arcade and, just fighting. So there's not really a whole lot else. The story mode they do have is mostly just doing iconic fights from the anime and manga. So it's a little bit sparse. So it's a little awkward, but overall it's okay. It's a good game. I personally really love it. I have a lot of love for it, but it's in the good game category in B here. Journey to Silius. Oh, you're bottom of A, actually. I had a lot of fun with this, even though I didn't get very far in it, but this game it's kind of like Mega Man, where it's really hard to play because it's mostly just because of the difficulty, not because of its responsiveness or its like the game itself. But it's very cool, and the music and aesthetic it's a gem of the NES. It was part of the NES library playing, and again, gem of the NES, hidden classic. I don't think it ranks as high as Blaster Master or Conquest of the Crystal Palace, but I think it's up there. I think it's really good. Fantastic game. Very good. A bit hard, but hey, and the aesthetic is really cool though. I recommend you guys check it out. Kirby Air Ride, you get to be up here. That's this game is one of my childhood classic like favorites just overall. I would personally rank it over Budokai, and the reason for that is because when my friends come over and we're gonna play old GameCube games, Budokai is like, if I'm hanging out with a certain group of friends and we want to play fighting games, Budokai's there. But Kirby Air Ride is the go-to party game. If we're gonna be playing older games, it's going to be Kirby Air Ride, because it is even now still one of the best multiplayer experiences ever. And even if you're playing by yourself, it's a fantastic game to play. In fact, I actually commented during the stream that I'm very unused to playing the game with the full screen at my discretion. It was very confusing for me because I usually play the game in multiplayer, so I'm used to split screen. So but fantastic experience. If you can find some way to play it, do, because it's really good. Let's see. Kill It With Fire. Oh, I remember this one. It was a Sunday stream. I think I got it through the Xbox Game Pass, and I remember it being very silly. It was a lot of fun. Your goal is to kill spiders with various levels of extremely goofy weapons to fight spiders, like an RPG or an M16. It's silly. I think it's bottom of A. I think it goes a journey into silliest. Kill With Fire is hilarious, and it's a very weird. It's pseudo puzzles, but it's also just funny. Just blow things up and mess up. Just ransack an entire place to attack spiders. And the hidden story in the game is just as silly and comical. It's a very good way to spend an afternoon. It's I think 5 or 6 hours of gameplay if you're like rushing through it. But if you're just having fun and goofing around, it can be a lot of fun. I think it's very, very solid game. Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Oh, you're top of A. You get to go, I think, right between Actraiser Renaissance for me. I think you're right up there as like best gaming experiences. Kirby in the Forgotten Lands was so much fun. I streamed all the way through, I think I did pretty much everything the game had to offer. I know I beat the final boss, and I did a lot of stuff in it. It was a very interesting game. Like, by the end of it, it does the whole Kirby, here's the year Eldritch Horror grab bag. But as a game, fantastic. Gameplay's responsive, 3D platforming is beautiful. And Kirby, I think Kirby games are always a fun time. So it's very hard for me to not just be like, oh, in love with that. Amazing. So yeah, it's an extremely good game. Kirby's Adventure. I'm going to put you at top of... I think I'm going to put you at bottom of A, kind of like with Kill It With Fire, where... Another NES classic that I can only recommend. And it's got a little bit of the aging thing where certain games feel different because of age. But it's not a bad thing. It's just that you have to come in prepared knowing that it's a game that comes from a time when people were still figuring out what makes games great. And Kirby's Adventure is, again, it's also really well made for the beginner. So I could highly recommend it for new gamers. So if you get the NES library, play Kirby's Adventure if you're new to gaming. I think it would be a very important piece of learning how video games are and how to get good at them. Because it also lets you practice your hand-eye coordination. I think a lot of us who are experienced gamers take it for granted that our hands do what they do without us having to look. And we can play video games without ever looking at our keyboards or our controllers. I'm mostly a controller player myself. It's interesting because I think Kirby's Adventure is great for players who haven't figured that out yet. In fact, I'm going to put it higher because I think it's going to go right up there with Dead Space. Right here. I'm going to put it higher because I could recommend it enough, not just for experienced gamers just to play and have fun with, but for new gamers to get into gaming as a whole. Highly recommend. Very good. Excellent. And also Pokemon Snap. I think Pokemon Snap's gonna go right next to Kirby's Adventure. Actually, no, right above it. Pokemon Snap was a lot of fun. I actually finished the game. I finished it 100%. Not like 100%, not like that. But I mean, like, I got to the last stage and got to do the Mew stage. So, actually seeing the credits of the game was a treat I was not expecting. Pokemon Snap was fantastic. It is a very fun game. And it's also very beginner friendly. And it's cute. It has cutesy moments because you get to hang out with the cute Pokemon and get to see them up close. And just, it's one of the few Pokemon games where you're not driven to be like battling or doing anything beyond just enjoying yourself. Oh, just sit there, have fun, take pictures of Pokemon. It's like a wildlife reserve. It's fun and just get to enjoy yourself. So very solid game. N64 classic, very beautiful. Love it. Amnesia the Machine for Pigs. You're going down here, buddy. You're right there with Inkulanati, I think. No, you're with Alien Isolation. Solidly okay game. Don't recommend it for people. It's a lot worse than Dark Descent. I think it's a interesting game, and the storytelling it did was very good, but I can't recommend it overall because it's a less polished and less. It's a lesser version. It's the Diet Dark Descent. I had fun with it, but mostly because I was able to just get into it some. But yeah, I can't recommend it. Machine for Pigs is a lot lesser than Dark Descent, and a lot of it came down to the horror was a lot more direct, and I think it's also just because the ending of it kind of falls apart. It becomes a lot less about suspense and dread and more about the nature of what your character has done. And it's, to me, I think I like, part of me wants to put it at bottom of B just because I personally enjoyed it a little bit more, because the end of the game, it becomes more interesting. I think the story, the symbolism of it becomes interesting, but it's okay. I can't do more than that. Mario Bros. The original Mario Bros. Not Super Mario Brothers, the original Mario Brothers. Which these two are right next to each other. That's fun. I think both of these games are going to go to bottom of A, I think. Just because of age. But it's mostly because in our modern sensibilities with what gaming has become, these are, again, very good games for teaching the basics to new gamers. And are fantastic relics of our past. And of course are just standout classics. But they also are, I think they have also aged a little bit. Mostly, I think most of the age is just presentation. But honestly, still a fun game. I still really like both of these. We played them in the NES library stream, and I remember having a lot of fun with them, and they were genuine. They were just, I was trying to beat Mario Brothers because I wanted to avenge my younger self. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe gets to go in S tier because honestly, as a game, Mario Kart 8 has proven to be, I think it's still up there as one of the best party games. It is up there and is a treat for both new players and experienced ones alike. And the recent DLC has proven that the game still has legs, even many years after its release. So I think it deserves to be an S tier game. It's still very good. I think a lot of people will get a kick out of that game, even if they don't play video games often. And also just the music, everything about it's just stellar. Nintendo did their work on that one. It's Minecraft. I think Minecraft's bottom of A to me. I think it should go like, I might need to rearrange this a little bit. No, you know what? Yeah, I think this is pretty, I think I'll do this. I think this is about right for me. Actually, wait. I think Cuphead should stay bottom of A, but I need to rearrange this a little bit. Donut County can go. It's mostly just because I think these four games, actually no. Master should go for, this is better. Okay. The reason though Minecraft's an A and not S is because for newer gamers, one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of newer gamers, when they don't have direction, they can actually find themselves lost in a game. It can be very difficult to teach. I think Minecraft does a great job of making it so that the learning is implicit, so that you can play. If you're brand new, take away the fact that you've learned this game. If you go back to when you first played Minecraft, if you have no prior knowledge, you do end up learning what to do by pressing buttons and just trying things. But it is a good game for various people to try out. But in Minecraft, it's just, I think it's one of the the staple video games right now of all genres. But I think it's one that's built more by the people who play it a lot than the ones who are just getting into gaming. I think a lot of people who are really into Minecraft have a lot of fun with it and they get more out of it. It's one of those games where the more you get into it, the more you get out of it. A lot of the A tier games are actually like that, where the more you get into it, the more you immerse yourself in it, and learn and practice and understand. And understanding is the big part. And once you do that, I think it becomes more fun. But for me, it's like I could play Minecraft anytime and just be like, oh yeah, it's a fun game. Just enjoyable. So A tier game. Ninja Gaiden. I put at the bottom of B. Kind of like it's kind of, I think it's right above Ghosts and Goblins, but another NES classic. We did it on the library. Another NES classic where I personally am like, yeah, it's pretty good, but also, man, that is a rough one. But mostly just because of I don't understand it very well. But it was fun, but very difficult. Ori and the Blind Forest. Here you go, buddy. You get to be up here with Iko. Ori and the Blind Forest is an amazing game. Pretty, it was beautiful. The story it told was very, very effective. It was very affecting and very beautiful. The final, like the chase with the bird, is one of the scariest things I've seen in games. It scared the crap out of me, and it was very, very good. It was a fantastic experience. Overall, 10 out of 10 game. Very beautiful. Oh, another one. Hey, Persona. You get to be up here with your boys. I think it gets to go, because I'm not finished with it. I think it's bottom of S for now. But Persona 5 Royal, I'm playing it currently. It is one of the 2 games on here that I am still streaming currently and have not finished. Persona 5 is fantastic. It's a fantastic game. And I've had all sorts of fun playing it. Dunk on Kamoshida here. And it just beautiful. If you're a fan of RPGs, go play it right now. Go get it. It's on Xbox Game Pass. It's on a bunch of systems. Go play Persona 5 Royal. It's a stunning game. It's fantastic. If the only thing I could say is like, oh yeah, expect anime shenanigans, but that's just part of the great story. It's so good. It's so good. It's good. Pokemon Scarlet. Ooh. Oh, we're onto the Pokemon games now. Because I played 2 so far. Pokemon, like, mainline games, as they are. Like, ones where it's like the goal is catching and battling. I played 2. Pokemon Legends and Pokemon Scarlet. I'm going to put Scarlet at... You know what? Scarlet's bottom of... I think it's going to go right next to Minecraft, where... And this is like me comparing it and Pokemon Violet and just the current generation of Pokemon. I personally think they did a very good job with this one. I think that it stands contemporary with... I'm going to be... This is my hot take. It stands toe-to-toe with Black and White. With Generation 5 of Pokemon. In the storytelling department. I think the story of the game and the way they adapted the open world to it, and also just the Area Zero storyline and the arcs that all 3 characters go through, personally is the best writing Pokemon's gotten. And for new players, it's very welcoming, and for older players, it's still just as much a treat. I've been playing Pokemon since I was a kid. It was actually the thing, I remember in the 4th grade, it was the thing that I got to meet my best friends with, because I was playing Pokemon Pearl, and I think one of them had Diamond. I know one of my friends had Diamond for sure. It was just, Pokemon's an integral part of my growth as an RPG player and playing in general, and I can't recommend enough for everyone to try the new game. Personally, I love them, and I think it's biased that I love them, but it is a very good game. I personally really like it. I know there's some graphical hiccups, and people talk about that a lot. Graphics don't make a good game. A good game is enhanced by great graphics and a good art style. But if your games are solely dependent on great graphics and performance to succeed, you're limiting yourself to a very narrow cone of games. And I think that you diminish yourself for it. I think you might want to try playing games where the gameplay is the focus. Looking at you, Gorogoa and F-Zero GX, and I think all of the A-tier games, despite their difference in age and time, all of them are A-tier because of the fact that they're fantastic gaming experiences, regardless of performance. It's not about graphics. It's not about what they look like. It's the fact that they presented themselves the best they could in the moment they were made and at their time, and then also made a fantastic, fun experience and a story to follow. That's not just the story the game is telling, but the story that you create with the game. Because playing video games is all a collaborative experience between you and the game, and the stories you form with them are beautiful. I mean, I can say that about all the games I've streamed. Even the ones where I got frustrated. See, the C-tier games. You know, except for Balloons. Balloons was fun. But, and, well, you know what I mean. I had fun with all of these, but Even the C tier games, I made stories with them. I had a collaboration with them. The C tier games are just the ones I had the hardest time with. I mean, well, Bennett Foddy kind of is weird. That one's more of an exception than the rule. But even the games that are lower in tier, I still got to have fun and enjoy them because I engaged with them. If you aren't willing to engage with them on some arbitrary basis like graphics, yeah, well, less for you, I guess. But Pokemon Legends Arceus is actually going to be top of A, I think. Which is a bit of a controversial statement, given that I'm putting it over my favorite fighting game and everything in A. But it's because it does some stuff. It took major risks with Pokemon as a whole that I don't think other games could have afforded to do so. And I think it really paid off. Like, it was made better for it. And also, the use of Arceus is, I think, personally, for me personally, it affected me because I have the memories of using an action replay to find Arceus at Mount Coronet. And also getting to hear the music in the game originally. So hearing that music remixed in the final battle, when I streamed that, was up there as one of the scariest things to me because... Jeez, what a scary moment for me. Because that's like unlocking... It's like reawakening the trauma of, hey, that's God. It's really good, though. I can't recommend it. Fantastic game. Proteus. You're gonna be with Hacknet, I think. Top of B, where... If you're into Doom, if you're into the, like, classic Doom, I think Proteus is a fantastic game. It's sort of... It's a game where it uses the illusion of 3D and has a lot of 2D sprites that are facing you at all times, kind of thing, where depending on where you are around the enemy, it shows different sprites. It's a very fascinating first-person shooter. I haven't played it in a while, and I remember playing it a few times in between certain things and throwing it in whenever I was playing something on the Xbox and I finished. So, but it was a very fun game. You could pick up and play it very easily. It's a lot of fun. But I think it's kind of like where with Hacknet, where if you're not very much into the old school shooters, it could be a little weird. It's a bit like Ultra Kill had a very strange, like, just like relative that came before it. But I think Proteus is really good. It's a fun game. And I recommend it mostly to first-person shooter players. Original Punch-Out. You get to be right down here with Kung Fu Heroes. I think it's better than stuff like Ice Climber and Ninja Gaiden, but another one of those classic NES games where it's mostly just that it's gotten a little old and can be a little hard for people nowadays to get into, but as a proto-fighting game, I think the original Punch-Out was a lot of fun. I still don't like King Hippo because I still don't know what I'm doing against that guy. But Punch-Out's fun. Very fun game still. Roundabout is going in A. I just remembered you. I think Hecko was the one who redeemed for this one. I think you're going to... This is going to be controversial. Yeah, it's going to be controversial. Put you up here. Roundabout is a game where you drive a car where you're always spinning. You are always spinning in a clockwise motion, unless you hit like a certain bumper and you reverse your motion. It's kind of like Purin Purin on the NES, where you're constantly spinning and have to avoid things in your environment. I think it's also there's a Game Boy game that's Purin Purin, or Curran Curran. I don't remember its name, but basically you're always spinning and you're in a limousine and your goal is to drive people around like Crazy Taxi. Roundabout is so bizarre as a game, but it's hilarious. The FMV movies are funny. The main character, Jojo, is hilarious. I think the fact that she never talks is funny to me because every time somebody gets in the car, she just turns around and gives the most blank stare. It's a very funny game, and the story is it's hilarious. It's pretty much a 4 to 5 hour running bit of it's like a running Monty Python movie. It's fantastic. And it's very silly, and it knows it's being silly, and it's very fun. I would recommend it to all people who like a fun, silly time. I recall once that I said that if I ever got enough subscribers, I would do the Desert Challenge, which is like, I wanted to beat the world record, but that's like 48 hours of playing a game in a row, which, oh, Jesus, that I don't think I could do it, but it would be a fun challenge. Manuel Samuel. Ah, yes, I played this with Getting Over It, because I played it in the double feature with Getting Over It. Manual Samuel, I think, is going to go to top of B like Hacknet. Again, I think it's going to go above Hacknet. Again, another one of those weird games where if you don't know what you're getting into, it is very bizarre. So Manual Samuel is about a guy who dies, and his whole thing is that death gives him the chance to come back to life if he can live an entire day manually. So he has to breathe manually, blink manually, and you have to work his entire body with button inputs. Basically, you have to use your whole keyboard to keep this man alive. And it's hilarious. It's a very funny time. I believe this one was redeemed by I think this was Viceroy who... I think it was Viceroy. But it was... Yes, it was. But as a game, it's kind of difficult, and it's very strange. But if you're into the sort of very British style of humor and enjoy very strange games, I would recommend it. It's kind of short. I think there's DLC for it that lets you do more stuff with it, but it is a very silly game, and it's worth a lot in laughs. I just saw what game is next. Oh boy, we get to talk about this one again, don't we? Scorn, you get to be our only D tier. But not because it's a bad game. I have talked about it at length in 2 different VODs about Scorn. And Scorn is one of those games where, as an experience, very thought-provoking. It is a very mentally stimulating game. It is a fascinating experience about... And the symbolism and the metaphor in it is a fantastic experience. As a video game, it is god-awful. I'm sorry, it's my only bad game. As a game, it is horrible. As an experience, it is stunning. It is a very thought-provoking, evocative, and very fascinating experience. As a video game, I cannot recommend it to any but the morbidly curious. Because as a game, a lot of what it does is unnecessary risks and gambles. It does its best to not explain and to not tell you. But it drops the ball in a couple places. Also, its final boss is it's a slog. I really like it. But it is a very, very interesting game. As an art piece, it's beautiful. If you ever want to see it, please play it, like watch a no commentary playthrough of it. And see it go through seamlessly the first time. I can't recommend it. I can't recommend it to any but again, it just can't. Scream Ride. Scream Ride's bottom of B. I think it goes with Ghosts and Goblins. I think it's like right next to Ghosts and Goblins. I just remembered Scream Ride. I played it for a Sunday. It's a very bizarre video game. Your goal basically is to test the absolute limits of human understanding of theme rides. And it's mostly just you flinging people into obstacles just for fun. It's a weird puzzle game with mixes of Roller Coaster Tycoon if it was made by a sadist. Interesting game. I played it on Game Pass. Very fun, but very bizarre. I recommend it for the puzzle enthusiast, though. And for those who like seeing explosions and ragdolls, it's pretty fun. But it kind of goes with these guys where it's a good game. It's okay. I should probably clarify, even this far in the video. When I say okay, that is average. Average is good. Average to great is a very fantastic thing. It's only below average that is when I start getting critical, like in a bad way. Like Inkwell and Scorn. As gameplay experiences, both of those are kind of ugh. But I won't say that they're bad because they have an audience. Every game here has its audience and people that should be playing it. I think Scream Ride is a great example of this, where the people who love Scream Ride probably really love it. They probably have a lot of fun just messing around and having fun. It's not for everyone though, but it's still a good game. It's a lot of fun. It's silly. Sniper Elite 5, you get to be the top of C. My poor sweet innocent child. Yeah, I love Sniper Elite 4, but Sniper Elite 5 makes me sad in a certain way. I think it's just because the mission layout is very strange, and I think Sniper Elite 5 is the greatest example of they kind of stopped they kind of are pushing how much they can redo the same thing. And it was solidly okay when I played it. And me and my friends still go back to play 4 more often than 5. So it's... yeah, it kind of... it makes me sad. Like, Sniper Elite 4 would be up here in, like, top of A tier. And Sniper Elite 5 is just down here. Which makes me sad. Shadow of the Colossus, you get to be top of A. Right up there. I think it's going to be below... No, it's going to be above... Actually, no. I know where I'm putting you. You're next to Actraiser Renaissance. Shadow of the Colossus is a fantastic game. And I recommend if anybody can try it, to play it. Oh yeah, there's emotes. But I think that it's one of those games that... If you don't know what you're getting into, it can be very daunting. I had an instruction manual, so thankfully I had a little bit of help. And the game does a good job of trying to show you what to do in-game. So I think it did a great job of that. And it's also just a fascinating, thought-provoking experience. And also made me, personally, in my own work on Red Genie, the game I'm working on at this point, it made me personally consider the nature of gaming instincts. Like, the fact that our instincts is, oh, go fight monsters. Okay, we don't question that. The game made me question the very instincts that games have given me for decades at this point. That that games will direct me towards something that is good, beneficial for me in that way. The fact that the game basically cons you into the longest quest for a very specific purpose is a very interesting, like, piece. It's fascinating. It's a very good game. It's up there. Very good. SMT5. Okay, I'm gonna have to really control myself here and put you in A tier next to Arceus. Some of this is also, by the way, I'm using Tier Maker Online, so my bad. I have to control myself because I personally want to say it's an S tier game, but I also know that compared to Persona 5 Royal, despite Shin Megami Tensei 5 being one of my favorite RPGs of all time, I know that it's not. It's not as strong as Persona 5 Royal. Even as someone who loves this game, I love Shin Megami Tensei 5. Like Budokai, though, I recognize that it's not for everyone. And the specifics to me is that Shin Megami Tensei 5, unlike Persona, does not focus in on the characters in the same way. You do have a very, I think it's a very good story and a very interesting story about the nature of God and the way that, and the nature of the divine in the mortal realm, and also what you believe in terms of choice and in terms of what the mortal experience should be. And the story is very thought-provoking. It's interesting, but it's also far more combat focused than Persona 5. Persona's pretty close to the 50-50 for storytelling and combat. Shin Megami Tensei is like 70-30. Its storytelling is more in the world it's created and the very superb world building it does, but it is more combat focused than its predecessor. Well, not its predecessor, its descendant. Because Persona came after Shin Megami Tensei. It's the other way around. Its descendant did improve in places that Shin Megami Tensei just doesn't go, but it's still a fantastic RPG. And also the music in Shin Megami Tensei 5 is probably one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. So I can't recommend it enough, but I know in my heart it doesn't go beyond Persona. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that the characters are not as present. That said, I do like the Naho Bino, the character you play as, because of the fact that Aogami is a very worthwhile companion, and I appreciate him greatly. But also, I find that him being a silent protagonist is very funny. Just the fact that you just silently go up and throw hands with God is very fun. So, yeah, it has to be A tier. I know that. Sky, S tier. I'm gonna put you below Persona, but why is Persona? Actually, Persona should be. I'm gonna put Persona right next to Eternal Dark. My head goes up here. Actually, no, it has to be. I think Persona needs to be bottom of S tier because I'm not finished yet. Later, it'll probably be right next to Skies of Arcadia, but actually, Sky's gonna be top of A, but that's just because I need to talk about this. I think Sky is one of those games that should be like in the line between S and A tier because it's a weird game for me to categorize. Like, specifically because Sky is a fantastic experience But I also know that it might also be, it's one of the most beautiful and thought-provoking things I've seen in a long time, but it's also, man, is it weird. Because it kind of relies on, there's a gamble in the game. It relies on a gamble that is that you will get attached to those you see around you taking the journey alongside you, and that you will play in a way that involves you dealing with other people. If you don't engage with the aspect of playing with other people, just, you know, parallel to your playstyle online, you might not get as much from this game as you would want. Actually, I'm gonna put it next to Gorgoga, because I think Gorgoa, Inside, and Sky all kind of like hold the same spot of, if you're not immersing yourself in the game and your immersion ever gets broken by some piece of the game getting under your skin, I do think the game could falter. But Sky is a fantastic experience. I recommend it. You should go play it if you can. It's on most every system, and it's a mobile game too, so if you can, go play it. I played it very recently. It was very fun. But I do think that it would be an A tier game, because as much as I want to just slap everything in S tier when I think of it, but it's a recency bias too. I think it goes in A with those ones. Solomon's Key. I think Solomon's Key gets to be top of B for, like, actually no, next to L Sword. I have a bias for Solomon's Key because it was my go-to game when I was in college to play. Once I got my Switch, I started playing it as when I'd go to do laundry, and I played a lot of Solomon's Key. It is a very fun NES game, but I don't think it goes beyond, like, I don't think I should put it above, oh, excuse me. I think it doesn't go above Mario Brothers or any of the games in the A tier. I don't think it goes anywhere in A tier because it's a very weird game to learn, and it's very strange as an experience. But overall, it is a very interesting and fun game. Very good. I think it's a B tier game. It's very good as the NES. It's one of the top of the class. Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Adventure. These two kind of get lumped together, but oh boy, I'm going to ruffle feathers with this. Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite games ever. It's the bottom of A, I think. Top of B, bottom of A. You know what? I need to put it, I'm going to put it at the bottom of A. As much as I would love to slap it with everything else, it's mostly because of the fact that as a game, in the modern climate of gaming, and in my head, I have so much adoration for this game. I know that there are flaws in it. And there are things in its storytelling that are very silly. And there are things in the game that are very silly. But it's still a fantastic game. It's very good. But I don't think it goes further than that. I think it's one of my favorite games of all time, but I know it doesn't go further than any of the other ones in A tier. And I know that. Because of the fact that I think it's personally just because of what it did with its budget. I personally think it's bottom of A. And it feels weird for me to, like, because as much as I want to throw all of my favorite games in S, I can't. It's mostly because of the second criteria of this tier list. How much would I recommend this game? I don't often think about recommending Sonic Adventure 2 to people. Like, if they're a newer player, I don't know how much I would say go get this from wherever you can get it. Partially due to the fact it's weird, it's hard to find in certain places, but also it's an odd one. It's an oddball game that I love. I love Sonic games, but I also know that I don't know how much I'd recommend it. It's a weird one. It's not like my 10 out of 10s. I think it's like Budokai, where it's a very good game from my childhood, but I also know that my bias towards it could, like I don't think I recommend the games I have the most bias for, because I usually think about the individual, and I don't know. I love the game, but I also think it doesn't go higher than that. And Sonic Adventure's top of B. No, it's bottom of A. It goes right next to Sonic Adventure 1. Sonic Adventure 2, I mean. I think it's like these two scrape the top of B because I think it's because of the same thing, where Sonic games as a story and the way that they handle, and these two games handle themselves, if you're not into the jank, if you're not there for the jank, and you're not there to laugh along with the story, then man, is this going to be a weird experience for you. But as platformers, they are, you know, top of their class. Speed is key. Go nuts playing this game. They are a lot of fun, but time is one of those things that affects the mind. And I do know that they're like they're those ones that ride between like they're like B+. And I know that. Even though I personally have such deep adoration for these games and I like replaying them now and then, they are very, very janky games. Sonic Adventure 1 specifically is very janky. Granted, the soundtracks in both are absolute bangers, and I listen to them all the time. And Perfect Chaos and Final Hazard are really, really cool boss fights. But you kind of need to know what you're doing to get that far, and it's weird how much how those games have aged in time. But I still love them. I will give them the A spot because that's what I think. Sonic Frontiers. You are a precious child. I think you're going right next to Kirby in the Forgotten Lands, though. Another A-tier game. A massive improvement over the other Sonic games I've played. However, it can't escape the jank of its past. Sonic can never escape its jank. But I think that's because that's how Sonic has always been. Like that, it feels kind of, you know, feels like it's not me putting it down. Sonic has always been a bit rocky. But Sonic Frontiers did a lot to rebuild that, and honestly, it was a very fantastic evolution for the series. And also, it took the things from Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 and other games from the history of the series and moved forward with it, which I think was a very good move for the games. If you're a fan of Sonic Frontiers is an absolute must play. For those who like the 3D like platformers and the open and some of the open world stuff, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. I don't know. I personally think this is as high as it goes, though. That's what I think. As a game, though, the music, though, I've been listening to the soundtrack since, especially the boss themes. The boss themes are a meme for a reason. They're so good, and I like listening to them a lot. They're fantastic. Oh, my summer child, Star Fox Assault. Yeah, you're bottom of best. Wait. About it? Yeah, bottom of best. This is me letting my bias is reinforced by the fact that this game is fantastic. Is it a weird one to play nowadays? A little. It is still the best. It's still one of the best games in the shooting and like the dog fighting. It feels weird putting it above Ace Combat 7, but Star Fox Assault took the DNA of Star Fox Adventures, which was a maligned game for a couple reasons, but took the DNA of that game and the greatness of Star Fox 64 and made probably one of the best games in Star Fox's history. It's a shame they never got to do this again. Assault 2 would probably do very well. If they literally just made a sequel to this game that was not Star Fox Command and made everyone sad, they would have made bank on this. But Star Fox Assault is a fantastic game. I think, well, technically it has to go above because I'm not finished with Persona 5 yet. This is not a delineation of Persona 5 being below Star Fox Assault. It's just because Star Fox Assault, I've actually finished it. But I really like Star Fox Assault. I think it's fantastic. And for anyone who likes that style of game where you're flying, the sci-fi genre, the style of play where you're flying the R-Wings and getting to shoot at things, and also the fact that you get to swap between vehicles and on-ground combat in certain missions, it's fantastic. It's a great game. It's a shame that it's only on GameCube, though. I hope that when and if the Nintendo Online system allows for GameCube games, they get this on there, because I want more people to see it. It's fantastic. Okay, what's next? What do we got left? We have, I think, 14 games left. I think we're doing pretty good. Stella Glow. I think it goes bottom of A for now. Stella Glow's it's much like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem, where it's a tile-based strategy game with RPG elements. And I just played it last night, another stream of it last night. It might fall into B. I think, you know what? No, I think I know. I think it's top of B, bottom of A. But there's a specific reason for it, and it's because of my current placement in the story. It is a fantastic RPG and a strategy game, and I recommend it to all fans. There are two things about it, though, that I think are what limit it. First was the fact it's a 3DS game, and kind of is only hampered by the fact that it's hampered by its availability. I'm running it on a totally legit 3DS, but it's not available to everybody, so that'd be a little difficult for people. But for me, the gameplay and story, as of recording, the story is in a weird spot, and I have a lot of questions that are burning in my head, and it's immersed me well enough that I want to know the answers to those questions. But there are certain aspects of the story I can't deny are a little frustrating. Namely Hilda, the main antagonist. I have no idea what her deal is. And I still don't know. I think I'm like halfway through the game, and I still have no clue what her deal is. And that is a little frustrating. But I think it's still a fantastic game, and gameplay-wise, it kind of reminds me of Pokemon Conquest, where even if you're not there for the story, the gameplay alone is very, very good. So I can recommend it on that basis alone. But otherwise, it does falter a little bit. And the storytelling is like classic anime fare, so it can be fun. And I think it does quite a good job on that respect. Very good. Very fun. I'm still having fun with it. I plan to see it to its end. So if catch me on Twitch, you can see the end of it. It's pretty good. Super Mario Sunshine. That is the game I streamed. I did the whole stream. I did the whole game in one. That was like 6 hours. And that was, man, that was a long time ago. That was April, I think. April or May of last year? Maybe June? And I remember that was the first stream I met one of the longtime viewers who I very much appreciate, Viceroy Combs. And I have really good memories of that stream in specific. I do think as a game, I think it goes right. Mario Sunshine specifically, I think goes next to the Sonic Adventures, because the gimmick of Flood of the jetpack, the water pack, is a good gimmick, but it's a gimmick, and at times it's basically just Mario 64 but with water, and it's a very fun game. But it was a little bit weird. Very fun game. I recommend it for most players, but the gimmick, though, falters a little bit because it kind of just becomes one of three things. Either use it to get somewhere you can't get to, use it to hover, or use it to attack something. But it doesn't... The water is... It doesn't expand beyond that until midway through the game. But I think it's very fun. My opinions are a bit scattered, but only because Mario Sunshine was a while ago. But I remember having a lot of fun. And it was a fun platformer. It goes right next to the Sonic Adventures, where I think it aged a little bit strangely, but it still holds up pretty well. And I think it's really fun. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. I played that for a stream, and I think I pre-ordered this one because I thought it was funny. And also because I played a lot of the old school levels in that game. I think Super Monkey Ball is bottom of A. I think it goes below Mario Sunshine even. I think it's... Actually, no. I think it goes like right here with Manual Salmon. I think it goes here because... I think it's only because of the fact that I wouldn't recommend it to people who aren't into the cutesy games. Because some people really don't like the aesthetic of playing like... This, like the style of it is very, very like... poppy. It feels a lot like you're playing like... it's very energetic, but it can be very taxing on the brain after a while. But it's a platformer puzzler because you kind of have to have a good understanding of the game's physics. And I do know that the physics can be a bit strange. So, and some of the later levels get insane. But it's a fun game. Just, I would recommend it to less people. Less than I would recommend the Sonics and the Mario Sunshine. Ooh, Super Mario 64. I think right now it goes above Mario Sunshine, but below the Sonics. And this is because I have less a relationship with Mario 64 than I do the Sonic Adventure series. Part of that's due to the fact that I never really got anywhere as a kid playing Mario 64, whereas I could finish the Sonic Adventure games. But Mario 64 is still a classic. It's still one of the best 3D games. Some people get motion sick playing it for some reason. I still don't know why. I think it's because the camera's weird. But still holds up. Still a very good game. I know that it might seem weird to not throw it in S tier because it's one of the staples of 3D platforming. I still think it's an A tier. I don't think it could go anywhere further down. But I think it's because my personal respect of it is mostly that it's like GoldenEye for me, where I respect it in the means that it is one of the historical pieces. But there are parts of it that are historical. There are things that the gaming industry moved away from, and for better or for worse, it's still a fantastic game, just not. It just has some pieces that I'm just like, it's okay. I don't have love for it. I just enjoy it. It's a fun game. I feel weird putting a lot of my opinion of like, oh, but this is it. It's, again, I had fun with all of these. I think it's just that the S and A tiers and the B tier, like B through S, I had the most fun with. But these are the ones I had the most good time with. And C and D are just that, I had less of a good time. And then specifically with Inkwell and Scorn, it's a complicated relationship. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now here's a weird one. Me personally, I think that because I have a long-lasting history with the series. I think Super Smash Bros. Is the reason why I wanted to be into game design. It's one of the it's like the original NES and the games I had for that, Smash Bros. Melee, and my continued relationship with Smash Bros. Games going through school. I feel like that's why I wanted to get into game design. It's one of those games that I think the series in total has a long-standing relationship with me. And I have this deep love for it because it's one of those linchpin games of why did ODaM go to college for game design? And it's because partially because I learned of Masahiro Sakurai through these games. And I learned, and you can actually tell a lot of the games he made and a lot of the games he worked on are further up the list. And a lot of the games that I find myself drawn to follow the same ideas and certain principles that make what a great game is. I think Smash Bros. Ultimate is going to be... I think it's going to go... Part of me thinks that it's going to be here. It's right next to Mario Kart. Because I think that it's another game that does everything it can for both its new players and its older players, and makes it so that everybody playing has a fun time. It is another game that when people come over, and when I hang out with friends, it's another game that we immediately go to, because it's a fantastic party game. And it's also a fantastic game for the competitive and the casual. It's fantastic. It's the pinnacle of the series. I hope that at some point it will be... I hope at some point it just gets ported. I don't think it'll ever be... I don't think the series will ever be able to move beyond that point. Because it's just it's one of those monuments of video gaming that it will be respected like Mario 64 or GoldenEye. It's one of those where it is a monument to the history. But it's great. Okay, tennis. I'm putting you near the top of B. I know that because I like you. You're going with Gradius. I don't have much to say about... I just went on that whole bit about Smash Brothers, but tennis. Good game. Tennis. Another one of the ones from the NES library stream. I had fun with it. I'm just very bad at it, but it was fun. I had fun with it. It goes with Gradius. The Pedestrian. Ooh, top of A. Yes. You're up here with... I'd like to say the Pedestrian goes next to... I think it goes above Conquest of the Crystal Palace. Like right here. The Pedestrian is... It was a very fun and interesting game with a... It was a story-based puzzle game And it had this, the story was told through the environment and the places you went, and the reveal at the end of the game was very fascinating. And the story as a whole was very, very engaging, and it was a lot of fun to play. I genuinely had a great time with it. It deserves more praise. It feels weird putting it above like classics like Mario 64 and the Sonic Adventures, but that's how I feel about it. I think that taking it as it is, it was a very fun and interesting game. A little short, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was perfectly 4 hours and ended up being exactly a stream, and it was very fun. Silently just gonna throw you up there. Let me adjust a little. Triangle strategy. Someone crooked at stream made a joke that I would make its own tier. No, it's gonna just be right. It's gonna be right here, I think. Right here. It is the top of S tier for me. We made a joke that it would get its own tier, but it's gonna be the top of S. Triangle strategy is my favorite. I think it's my favorite game of all of 2022. And I would even say that of all the games on this list, it is my favorite game on this list, bar none. Even against my childhood classics and my favorites, games that I've played for years now, Triangle strategy is an experience I won't forget. It's one of those ones that it's a strategy-based game, but the story it tells and the way it handles its characters and the things the risks it takes, I personally think need to be rewarded more. It's a phenomenal game. I think it's 10 out of 10. I think it's one of my favorite games of all time. And the reason it ranks so much higher is because I could recommend it to anyone. It has difficulty. You can change the difficulty so anyone can experience it. You can adjust the game accordingly, and you have a lot of time and resources to get to see all of this very, very fascinating story, and I love it. And gameplay wise, it's so good. And also, I made a joke about it earlier about Sarah Noah versus Alto from Stella Glow's main character. Sarah Noah is such a good main protagonist, and part of that's because he grows in a way that I find very philosophically interesting. And the story, the story that is told, and the characters that you get to, meet, and the way that the world is built, and the way that Sarah Noah engages with the problems of his world is really refreshing, because he's not just your stock protagonist. Sarah Noah gets to, if you do the true ending, if you go for the golden ending, you get to see him become the person he was meant to be, the Lord of House Wolfort, and see what it truly means to be a lord. And I genuinely love that story. And also, he's a Giga Chad, so really good. He's second. So I can't recommend it enough. It's absolutely beautiful. Star Tropics, you're next to Crystallis, where I have no idea what to think of. Another one of the RPG games. We're jumping again. I apologize. Star Tropics, NES game, another one in the library. I did not get enough time to learn more of it, but it's a very weird Earthbound style game. Interesting, but confusing. 12 minutes. I just saw the game. 12 minutes. The one right there with the red and black. You're next to Alien Isolation. There is only one reason for this, though. As a story, very interesting, very intriguing. Some very A-tier actors playing the main cast. You have Daisy, I think it's Daisy Ripley as the wife. The main character you're playing is played by, oh god, his name is leading me. He was in Glass. James McAvoy. And Willem Dafoe is the bad guy, as it were. He's the robber who breaks in. The story it tells is really fascinating as a time loop story. The gameplay can get very specific, though, where it tells you to go for very specific things, and you have to follow a very specific chain of events to get to the solution. The game also had a fatal crash at the very end of the game for me. So I never got to see the ending. I had to go look it up and watch it later. I basically didn't get to see the end of the game, which was a devastating blow to it. And also the game itself was kind of, ow. but I thought it was very interesting and very a very cool story. As a gameplay experience, it's actually, you know what, I think it kind of goes here. It kind of goes below those two, because with the other two, at the very least, I finished Machine for Pigs and Alien Isolation. It was just because it was not due to technical issue that I faltered, but also, man, it kind of fell apart for me. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is next. I think before I do this one, I'm going to do the two games next. I'm going to do Wrecking Crew next, because it's a quick one. Wrecking Crew gets to go next to Dr. Mario. No, it goes at the bottom of B. It was okay. I think Wrecking Crew is one of the lesser NES games. And You Suck at Parking is top of B. I'm going to put it next to Monkey Ball. Above it. You Suck at Parking was a very fun multiplayer game, but it was very very weird, very singular in focus, but a very fun game for what it was trying to do. And I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. It is definitely one of those games where if you're not into the top-down driving style of the game, and you're not into, and you don't find the single player mode engaging, and you play multiplayer and you're not getting into it, it could be tough, but I think it's fun. It's a fun game, and it was very silly, very fun time. Very, very interesting. Good. Okay. Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I think it's going to be below Stellar Glow for me right now. But there's a reason. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is one of my favorite fighting games nowadays. I also just realized I forgot Dragon Ball FighterZ on here. I just realized that I played that too on a stream at one point with that game. There are 2 games I forgot, so that's technically 84 titles that I've done. But Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 only gets B tier because, man, is it hard to get into. I was lucky getting into it because I had the experience of playing Dragon Ball FighterZ and having the notion of what fighting games are meant to be like before I got into it. But Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is a fantastic fighting game, but it has a high learning curve. So I recommend it for the staunch fighting game fan and for those who are really into that stuff. The roster is big and varied. The comic book aesthetic is amazing, and the music is really cool. But if you don't know what you're doing, it can feel like you're button mashing and not getting anywhere. So I recommend it for fighting game fans. And for those willing to put up with the patience, with the time required to get good at it. But overall, pretty good. I'm going to put Master Duel right next to it. This is no secret that I have a deep love for Yu-Gi-Oh! And I personally love playing it. I have a lot of cards, more than I think most people should. But I love Yu-Gi-Oh! But I also recognize that Master Duel is lacking. I think Master Duel, the only thing it's lacking at this point is a story mode. Not just the solo mode where you do the gates, but I think something that lets you replay the duels of yore. Like something kind of like Legacy of the Duelist, where having the anime duels, even if it's just here's the duel as it was, and you don't get to see the story mode behind it, would take the game far further. Because I personally like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Games because I like playing the game myself, and I like playing single player stuff at times. I do like playing against other people, but the online centric game can be a bit of a turnoff for people who want to get into it. The solo gates do a great job of prepping you, but they don't prep you for what modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Looks like. And modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a hellscape on its own. And it's only for those willing to put in the practice and time. And also the Google searches to know what decks are good. Even though I personally find that building a deck you love is more powerful than building a deck that is, mechanically strong. But, alright, so that is all 82 games that I had. I do apologize for missing 2. I would say that Hot Wheels Unleashed and Fighters would both go next to Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where they're both very good for their genre-savvy fans, and for people who like to try new things, but they would go right there. I did miss those 2 games, but that is just mostly because they were... I think it's because they were tacked on at the end of a stream, and that's why I kind of forgot them, personally, but I caught Proteus a few times, but that's because it shows up more than once. But this has been the tier list. I think... So if we go from top to bottom, Top is Triangle Strategy, of course, my summer child. And this is how it is. I will probably post this on Twitter just to throw it down. But yeah, honestly, this has been fun. It was fun to put this in retrospective, though, because holy crap, I've streamed 80 plus games in the last year. And over that time, I've learned a lot of new things. I made, let's see, 3 books in the time since I started doing my own work, and I've published 3 books, 5 albums of music. I think 6. No, it's 5 or 6. I'm gonna look really quick. My bad. I'm going to look because I'm gonna make sure, because the albums of music are the ones that always catch me off guard for some reason. Albums. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's. Yeah, oh, that's why I think it's 6. It's 5 albums, but because one of the songs releases a single. But in that time, I've done all this stuff, and man, I'm really busy. And Red Genie's still on the horizon, so I gotta finish that up. I hope this was interesting. I know it's kind of a weird piece of media for me to just be like, oh yeah, here's all the games I've streamed. Here's where I put them all in comparison. I'll probably put the picture of the full tier list at the end of the video, just so people can see it in total. Yeah. I hope that this was fun and informative and kind of interesting. If you want to see me actually play these games and streaming games like this, I stream on Twitch, so you can check it out there. And yeah, it's kind of all we got. So thank you for watching, and I hope I see you sometime in the near future. Goodbye for now. Thank you.